Hello, and thanks for joining the podcast again. I'm David Ammons with Retirement Living Associates, and we're excited about the podcast we have kicked off and talking about the senior industry, the players in it, our experience in it over the years. I've been involved a long time, and today I'm thrilled to have with me Mason Williams, who I've known since I was literally preteen. So we go way back. Mason was the head of the construction company when we built Springmoor, which is now celebrating our 40th anniversary. So the buildings that we'll be walking by and through today, we're on a sidewalk here at Springmoor, were built and organized and constructed by Mason and all of his capabilities. Mason's had a great career. He's been in Raleigh forever. He's a Raleighite, as some of us call people that have been here forever. He used to be with Ammons Construction Company, which was my father many years ago, but he's also done a lot since then with Mason Williams Construction. He's been with Williams Russell Company, which is also a construction company. He's been with Williams Property Group. He, a few years ago, probably more than a few now, but developed a wonderful thing, the American Institute of Healthcare and Fitness, that was done here in Raleigh. Been very active on some significant aspects of the board of the National Association of Home Builders, Raleigh-Wake County Home Builders Association, Wake County Planning Board, does a lot, I believe, he can talk about that in a minute, but with the Museum of Art. So it's just a wonderful person to have with us today. Mason, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. You've been most generous.
Yeah, good. As somebody said one time, with that introduction, my mother would be so proud. That's good.
That's right. Let's end right there.
That's right. So I want to just talk some, it's just wherever we end up, about retirement communities, what you think we focused on when we built this, priorities. You know, I hear words now about accessibility and handicap accessible, and just what you remember were priorities and what you do different today, or what you've even been involved in helping us do some of the modifications and stuff to Springmoor over the years. So
Yep.
if you can help us understand some of that, it'd be great.
Well, back in the late 70s, early 80s, when Mr. Ammons had this brilliant idea to serve something for all our parents and their generation and what would eventually become us, a nice place to live, if you had a nice campus and a pretty environment for your residents and some health care on campus and some food, we felt like at the core that's really what it was all about. And it was, and that's what was originally constructed. But as David alluded to, a lot of ancillary and very helpful and necessary ideas have come along since then. In the original iteration of this, we didn't have what is now called the Wellness Center, and the small exercise pool that got added just before we finished construction was actually an afterthought when we realized, well, that was something that would really help that age group to stay active and able to do what they needed to do physically. So a lot has transpired. I think the basic built environment that you live in isn't radically different, although how your phone works and your TV works and how your information is passed through the place.
That's right.
You know, we had an old analog switchgear with 10,000 wires running out of it all over campus that constantly got cut, and now all that's gone and there's no wires and communication is seamless. That's sort of in the electronic side of things. But in the built environment, since we started and felt like we had a really good program and everybody was happy and it sold out and stayed full all the time, so we felt like we were delivering what people needed, we began to realize that things like wellness had a much broader definition. And the Wellness Center down in South Village became a concept and got built. We went back to the health center and put in a larger single room unit because it became obvious that there was a lot of demand for it, and it helped people's wellness to have a more home atmosphere when they were in that stage of life, that it made a difference. That sort of thing began to really promulgate what the center was all about, what Springmoor is. I think the outreach to residents and those many facets of their lives became more alive by having built spaces to house them that we hadn't really considered when we started.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Square footage always comes to my mind when we talk about that, because I'm amazed when you build we'll say a higher end place or a more expensive community, there's a lot of talk of how am I going to go from 4,000 or 5,000 or 6,000, however big their house might be, down to half that or even a fourth of that. So So I know you've also been active in following the other retirement communities that have been developed in Raleigh. There was a trend, as you may know, for a long time where the average square footage, I would say, used to be 900 to 1,000, and it kept climbing up to 1,1700. But I don't see it just going on and on. Retirement communities may have some penthouses and some 5,000, but I'm amazed how the idea that your square footage has to continue to grow for a new market has not really changed.
Yeah, I think that's true, but it just massaged a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, when we built this, there were a lot of studio apartments that
That's
were
right.
basically an alcove with a bed and a living room and a bit of a kitchen. And that seemed to be a nice space for a lot of the market. But over time, as you say, the footage and the expectations have increased. So a number of those I know have been combined since we left and morphed into a little bigger space. It's probably not unlike the general apartment market that now you can rent a 2,000 square foot apartment for probably $3,000, but that aside, the retirement communities have not increased that much in size, but I think a bit, and it's, as you say, it's what people want and can afford. And
the other thing that we've talked about a few times over the years, Mason, that I find intriguing is when you have a new place or even you're attracting new people to live here, we all know you have to do a certain amount of your marketing and your first impressions for the children. And do they sort of approve of it, even if mom and dad have different priorities? So as you and I have both grown from young in this industry to now eligible to move into these types of communities, can you speak to that some, or you have thoughts on that? Or?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. You're selling to the children,
right?
Because it's well, not to be crude, but it kind of is taking care of mother and father so they don't have to.
Yeah.
So they are very excited about that as a basis, and plus they want a really nice place for them to live, and they have a different set of stage of life with all their demands, plus with the proliferation and speed of change in the general world of information and lifestyles and the whole bit, their view of what it ought to look like, and I speak as a 75-year-old who has the old view, is they're worlds apart, further apart than they were when I was 25 and my parents were 60. And it's not bad, it's not a good or bad thing, it's just a sort of fact of the world and where we live today.
That's right.
They do look for a lot of information technology things.
Yeah.
And like we added the theater in South Village, that didn't exist when we built the building.
That's right.
That's not a big high-tech thing,
yeah,
but it's the kind of direction.
Right, and it's a given now. All new communities are going to have.
You got to have a swimming pool, wellness center, theater, IT connection, et cetera.
Right. Talk about wellness. You got a lot to talk about wellness. I will say, anyone who's been in this industry can tell these stories, but I'm amazed hundreds of times in my career, maybe 1,000. We'll take a tour, and the son or the daughter is just saying stuff, and then later the actual prospect will say to us, you know, they kept bringing this up and this up. That doesn't really matter to me. So it's like even the parent was watching them bring up stuff that is not a priority. So it's intriguing. Yeah. If we can, what I'd love to do is take a little bit of a walk. We're going to keep chatting, but just walk down the sidewalk a little bit. I'd even like to turn some so you can get a better feel, those of you watching, of how much Springmoor worked to protect the trees and the landscape. Springmoor's buildings range from 1-story little houses to 5-story buildings, and you just would hardly know that in most of the community. Now, there's some areas, of course, 5-story building stands out, but like where we're at right now, that you'll see a little bit in the background, is 2 stories on this side, 3 stories on the other side because of the slope. The number of trees to have built all this square footage is just sort of a crazy thing. So let's walk this way a little bit and talk through that. Where do you think, Mason, the industry is going to go? I hear so much today about food better be, an experience, and they need 5-star five-star amenities. They want club level living, concierge. I think there's always been a desire for the high end, but as we all know, high end market is usually a smaller percentage. And so communities end up hitting a little more of the middle. or at least, we won't get into the demographics, but the middle of not the high end. So, but what do you see? I know there's some new places going up around town and across the state that you've been to and are aware of.
Well, I'd say, first off, food is always the top subject of discussion.
Yes.
Especially in my cohort that's sort of getting to the point of looking at these places as a residence rather than a place for mother and father.
Right. I want you to go there.
That's a big deal. But
I just want this in the background.
I think
Oh, that's a good idea.
that all the amenities, they're nice, but not an essential ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
The wellness that we've been talking about and that sort of thing is important. You got to have that, but having a country club complete environment, from my way of thinking, is not that critical. As you say, it ought to be for, there are a few people that want it and can afford it and they'll
Sure.
pay for it, and that's fine. The food part, I think, is probably the hardest to do
Mm-hmm.
and the most sort of core to all those demographics.
Well, and I think, I don't mean people need to stay at their country club for country club level, but a lot of them do. So they want their retirement community to be nice, they want, certain things, but they're not trying to replicate where they were a club member for 20 years.
No.
I think they still go there for those things.
And you can
So,
tell me, but I expect the move-in age has probably moved up significantly since 40 years ago.
yes,
And that,
yes,
but- so that reinforces what you're saying. They're sort of leaving their clubs anyway.
yeah,
They might go over there for dinner, but they're not going to be over there playing tennis and golf every day.
right,
They're looking for what these
right.
institutions offer.
Yep, I think that's true. I'm always intrigued as people figure out there's a handful of people that amenity A is critical. And for other people, that amenity matters none and something else does. So whether it's transportation, whether it's trips to the grocery store or to cultural events, or whether it is the swimming pool, or whether it is bridge club, I mean, it's interesting how, like any group of us, any age, anywhere, there's a small group or a group who wants something, and then other people have no interest in that and have completely different interests. So we try to match all of that, to say, what are sort of the bases? What do we want to make sure covers all the bases? But there's always some people who don't know why we don't do more of this or less of that. So
And there always will be.
yeah, that's exactly right.
That's how that, but I think just look at, as you say, the trees. I remember quite vividly, tree protection was an everyday activity.
Yeah, yeah.
Stay away from the trees. No, don't dig over there that deep. Don't cut those roots.
Right. And I'm not a tree guy, but some of these trees are 100 years old, I would
They've
guess.
been
That
here a
big tree
long
there,
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so for us to fit all this in, what did you say the other day? You mentioned the square footage.
Well, the whole campus is about 500,000 square feet.
God, that's crazy.
So it's a lot.
Which
of
I
action.
can't divide by 43,560 off the top of my head, but it's 12, 13, 14 acres of heated and
Yeah.
air conditioned buildings, which is crazy.
It is. It's remarkable. And look around. It's like, well, I told the story of Mr. Davidson and your father driving through on Springmoor Drive
Yeah,
as we
where is it?
started, and his comment was, "You haven't built anything,"
Yeah.
because he looked over here and there's a lot of trees, but actually there was 250,000 square feet of buildings up there.
Mm-hmm.
So, at any rate, it's.
Yeah.
I think this is a remarkable campus. You don't see this kind of thing in this industry
Mm-hmm.
much at
And
all.
it appeals to people who want this, and then I know other people want their community to feel like they're at the biggest resort in Vegas. I'm always intrigued by, we all land in the right place.
That's right. It's the beauty of the market.
That's right.
There's plenty of, you basically want an urban center if you want
Mhm.
that, and that's available, and they're beautiful and tall, but
Right.
I don't think there'll ever be a problem of folks that want this environment.
Oh.
This is beautiful.
Good. Do you have anything else you want to add? Any more thoughts you had before our conversation, or?
No, just I'm mighty proud of what we did 40 years ago, and mighty thankful that I was working with Mr. Ammons, who had this vision and would bring me in to be a part of it.
Yes, it's been a long time and it's been a great thing. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate all the insights you add. It's an interesting industry, one you and I have been involved in now for 4 decades. And so thank you for joining this podcast. Hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to keep doing different episodes, mix those up the best we can, from construction level to nursing and activities and all that we'll be bringing into our podcast. Thank you very much.